Hello?
Oh, hello.
Oh, there we go. Got you back. I just had an interruption there. Sorry. Mate, Aaron from Red Fang. I cannot talk to you without honouring you first by cracking a beer. Hang on 1 second.
Oh, excellent.
There we go. I got it.
Fantastic. What are you drinking?
It's called Han Premium.
Ah.
It's an old one.
It's Australian?
It's been sitting in my fridge for a long time, and it's only 8 in the morning, and anything's going to taste like crap.
Wait, 8 in the morning where you are?
Sorry?
You said 8 in the morning?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
But I have to honour you from Red Fang that way. Well, we're set now with a beer. Aaron, with your musical tastes, you're obviously extremely refined from a young age. And going right back into the classics. I understand you chose to perform at school with Crimson Sludge, the revered and globally honoured rock anthem, Big Bottom for Spinal Tap.
We did. How the heck did you ever find out about that?
Oh, we're sneaky out here in Australia. We find out everything because we also know that you played, as you know, our national anthem here, Dirty Deeds by AC/DC.
Exactly. It's the first song that I ever played. First rock song that I ever played in front of an audience at all was Dirty Deeds by local heroes.
Indeed. Was this the beginnings of Aaron Beam as a musician, or does the rabbit hole go even deeper?
I started playing music actually when I was about 8 years old. I was one of the rare kids who begged his parents to sign him up for piano lessons. At about 8, and so I started playing piano at 8, and then maybe 2 years later I picked up the saxophone and played saxophone for a few years, and then then started playing guitar when I was about 15.
Oh, well, so there really is more to it, and I didn't mean to mention the rabbit hole. I don't understand that phrase. Poor rabbit, huh?
Well, we don't, it depends on which hole you're talking about.
Well, that's quite right. I mean, the same could be said of bloated roaches. I mean, I totally get that. They can be greedy little fuckers, right?
Oh, my God. Are you like is this you're the Nardwar of Australia?
No, not at all. I should point out that when you have facial hair as fine as you gentlemen, that actually is able to transmit some of your thoughts straight to us, so we appreciate that. It makes interviews much easier.
Yeah. I did already have... I did have some pretty ridiculous facial hair I started growing chest hair and facial hair when I was probably about 15, 16 years old.
Right.
And, I was a huge fan of Metallica, and so I wanted to grow my facial hair like James Hetfield's, and so I grew these really long sideburns and a terrible handlebar mustache, but it was so thin and wispy that it wasn't really visible as a mustache, just was sort of like a fuzzy patch on my face that looked out of focus.
Oh, I can completely identify with that, my friend. I've tried to mimic James myself, and it just doesn't fly for me.
Yeah.
Now, with bloated roaches, I have to ask, and this is an entirely selfish question, were you looking at a slightly bloated roach when you decided on that name?
No, my dad is a scientist. He's a biophysicist, and I'd sort of made a fake band for a while called the Demented Mud Puppies, which is based on some sort of work that some of his colleagues had done. And then somehow Bloated Roaches came out of like a science context you know what? I think it was that combined with some sort of it was like a Newsweek article or something. They had this little kind of blurby section that it was sort of like the buzzwords of that month, and there was something about a bloated roach or something along those lines that we stole for that band name. Oh,
it's a sensational name. It always will be to go down the annals of history. But this is where your creative creativity really took off, because you started writing on the back of bloated roaches. Oh, not literally on the back of bloated roaches, but the band, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first proper band that I had with that we actually wrote a bunch of original songs. We also did a few covers of things like Soundgarden and Mudhoney. I guess it was late '80s or something, so it must have been Superfuzz, Big Muff, and Louder in Love songs that we were covering.
Oh, indeed. So where were you drawing influence from? This is, I guess, the ripe old age of about 15, 16, somewhere there?
Yeah, right around then, 15, 16. Yeah, it was like Seattle grunge scene pretty much. I mean, it was late 80s, so I guess I was 15 in 88, 89, and just got really into Soundgarden first, and then through Soundgarden discovered Mudhoney and Nirvana and the whole sub pop scene, Tad, Skin Yard, stuff like that. So that's really where a lot of the inspiration for the songwriting came from early on for me, and it continues too. Like I consider Red Fang, a lot of people call us stoner rock, but I really kind of feel like we're just sort of like doing our version of grunge, basically.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree. I couldn't agree with you more. I think it's a poorly administered, if you like, moniker, and certainly can't slot you into a particular genre. I think your description's far better. But you played with a variety of bands over the next sort of 15 years, right up until 2005, when a Red Fang protruded forth from the gum line, I guess. How did Red Fang...
Yeah. So how did it come about?
Yes.
It was myself and John and David. We each found ourselves in a position none of us had been in since probably our early teens. None of us had a band for the first time in 20 years or however long it had been. And we all, we're mutual admirers of each other. And so it just kind of made sense that, we were all bandless, didn't have anybody to play with, and so we just started playing together. And a few months later, Brian moved back up from San Diego, where he was taking a leave of absence from Portland. And he had a bunch of songs sort of like with vocal parts already, and so we just incorporated those into what we were already doing, and that was when we kind of became a real band.
And when you say a real band, in all sincerity, 4 albums since 2009, and the better part of 14 years playing to crowds all over the world, it seems very much as though you were headed towards this group all along. Has it felt that right or that correct for you right from the start?
There was, a couple little growing pains in the very beginning because I had been playing guitar. There's just two of us playing guitar and drums and no vocals at all, and then Brian, who is also a guitar player and had a couple ideas for vocals, he volunteered to try playing bass, and because he had in some band that he played in high school, and then David tried playing bass, and basically they just were so terrible at it that I said, all right, fine. Even though I want to play guitar in this band, I'm gonna switch over and play bass. And at the beginning, I sort of made a conscious effort to write the stupidest bass parts I could, so that because my goal was to be able to play any part completely drunk without having to worry about any chance of messing up. That was like literally just sort of out of spite even, but ultimately ended up actually enjoying bass so much that it was like I'm super happy that that's what I ended up doing. But it made like the early part of being in the band super fun because I just didn't have there's no pressure when you care about it. When you play guitar, it's a lot more precise and you have to worry about hitting the right fret and like not bending the string too much. You don't have to worry about that stuff with bass as much.
Oh, look, if I may respectfully disagree, I mean, you are a professional. My 15-year-old son only last night, a proud bassist, sat down to your informative online tutorial for I'm a Ghost. And he found it absolutely invaluable. He's plugging in his bass every time now. And he's been explaining to his music teacher at school that songs have a bunch of parts and you play them. So cool, yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, lots of notes. You have to just make sure you press your finger down behind the metal strip thing.
That's exactly the metal strip thing. I think that fits into the nomenclature of a bass perfectly. While we're having a little bit of an explore, Cruising Swine has, I believe, an interesting insight into your personalities. How did you arrive at the superpowers you chose, and what's with your choice of only 3 deadly sausages instead of 4 or 5?
We did have input about what our powers were going to be for that that video, but once we basically saw animatics of it, and we just, we trusted the director. He had such a good instinct that, but a part of the 3 sausages thing is that I had to have my gallbladder removed a few years back, and so if I have more than 3 sausages, I'll actually start vomiting from not being able to process that much fat. So,
so that makes perfect sense.
And animated vomit is pretty hard to draw, I guess.
Absolutely. To get that flow of the flying chunks is really something indeed. But at least the whole thing went to 11. I mean, that's a good thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, you first came out here I can't thank you enough, Aaron. I could really speak to you all day. I generally could, but I better move along. You first came out here in about 2013 for the Soundwave Festival. That was your first trip out here, right?
Yeah, first trip to Australia at all, and it was really super fun festival tour to do. We were feeling a little intimidated at first because there's so many bands, and we got our start time just maybe a week or so before the festival actually started, and discovered that we were playing at, I think the doors opened at 11 a.m. for that festival, and our set time was at 11:20. So our set time was actually before noon, which is oftentimes before a lot of us would even wake up. But yeah, we were totally blown away by the enthusiasm and dedication of the Australian audiences. The people were always there that early, and they're usually already pretty drunk, which is pretty remarkable. And yeah, it was super enthusiastic for us, even though probably most of them had never even heard of us. But it was great. I loved it.
Oh, brilliant. And, of course, by your return in 2015, we'd certainly heard of you by then, if some hadn't. So some of the very finest shows are in the intimate spaces, like the Barwon Club in Geelong, too. Is there anything different about Australian fans? I mean, how do we stack up against audiences around the world?
I mean, there's differences everywhere, and even across Australia, there's, from Geelong to Perth, the audiences are a little bit different. But I feel like our style of music generally attracts a pretty similar style of person. It's, a lot of men and women in their mid-30s and older who have beer guts and beards, men and women both, and who just, they're just ready to let loose, basically, and we try to be the catalyst for that. We try to help people forget about their troubles for an hour or so once every couple of years.
Oh, brilliant. You do it so well. I mean, how you can make sure that testosterone is not limited to the male gender, I don't know, but you certainly do that. Well, we're mighty thankful that you're coming down under. Gee, that sounds all wrong, doesn't it, coming down under? I've got to stop saying that, although there's a Spinal Tap-esque track right there, do you think?
Yeah, well, it's true. It's true. It's good. That's a very good point. I never really... It seems like an untapped resource that I'm really surprised that I haven't heard of it before.
But so am I, actually. I think Red Fang should perhaps run with that, maybe. But certainly we'll look forward to seeing you on Thursday, the 10th of May, at the Brightside in Brisbane. And then you'll be travelling through Australia. We're going to catch up with you on Sunday, the 13th of May at the Corner Hotel in Melbourne. And then you finish up on the 16th of May at the Flowers Live in Adelaide. It'll be tremendous to see you.
Yeah, that's great. I can't wait to come back.
Absolutely. Look, thank you very much for your time, Aaron. I realise that you are pressed for time and you'll be having people knocking down the door from a telephone point of view. Travel safely, my friend.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
We'll see you soon.
Look forward to seeing you.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Bye.